Hello, hi, how are you? I hope you're good. So it's still October, which means it's still Halloween in my head because every day in October is Halloween, which means I'm back with another book review. A book review of another spooky book that I think everyone should read, and today, dun 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 dun, that is Frankenstein by Mary Shelley. I read this, I want to say 2 years ago now, I think, and I really enjoyed it, and I really want to go back and reread it. So not everything is fresh in my mind, but you know, I still want to talk about this book because I think there's so much that should be said. I'm not going to speak on everything, I just want to briefly discuss this book. But before I actually talk about this book, I do want to give some, backstory on this book because I think it's always nice to know just things about the book and how it came to be and such. So Frankenstein by Mary Shelley was published in 1818, but 2 years prior, 1816, yeah, math, there was a volcanic eruption of Mount Tambora, I don't remember what the volcano was called, but anyway, there was a volcanic eruption, 1816. So this whole year was basically darkness. I think the summer, there was no sun. So during this time, Mary Shelley, her soon-to-be husband Percy, go to Lord Byron's home or maybe summer place. I don't remember where they went, but they went to a house, right? And there was another guy, I don't know who the other guy was, but they go to this giant house where they challenge each other to write the most creepy, spooky story, and it's there that Mary Shelley is inspired to write Frankenstein, I believe, is how the story goes. Could be slightly wrong with the facts there, but something of that sort happens. Mary Shelley actually wrote this when she was, technically still in her teens. I think she was anywhere from 18 to 18, 19, 20, something like that, maybe even earlier, who knows. So she was really, really young, which she wrote this when she was that young. So crazy to me. So there you go, some facts about Frankenstein. Also, another thing, before we even get into the book, a lot of people get really confused with this, but I want to make this clear. Frankenstein is not the monster. Two separate things, people. Frankenstein is the scientist who created the monster. He is Dr. Frankenstein. And then the monster is nameless. He is either referred to as demon, creature, or something along those terms. He doesn't have a name. So Frankenstein is not the monster. Okay? But with that being said, let's jump straight into the story. So Frankenstein is told from the perspective of 3 different characters. We have Walton, Dr. Frankenstein, and the monster. The main story of this, we follow Dr. Frankenstein. He is a young scientist who is striving to do what no one else has done before. He wants to create life out of basically nothing. He takes dead parts of humans and puts them together and then brings them to life via electricity, and that's how the creature is created. And in doing so is so horrified by what he has brought to life that he flees from it. He runs away and basically abandons his creation, his child. In doing this, a whole load of chaos and madness and destruction soon follow Frankenstein because of this. We follow the monster's perspective. Obviously the monster is very hurt and distraught that he's been abandoned. He goes away, lives in the forest, and ends up observing this family from afar. I always thought it was really sad because I was of the opinion or how I viewed it, I thought the monster was never inherently bad, and that the monster was just sort of a product of his environment and how he was treated and whatnot. But we'll get to more of those thoughts later. The gist of the story, though, is that the monster eventually wants revenge on Dr. Frankenstein. So wherever Dr. Frankenstein flees, the monster is shadowing him, and all the people Frankenstein, you know, loves and cares about, they start dying one by one. And who's killing the people? Well, okay. So yeah, I don't want to say any more because spoilers, although I think I might have spoiled quite a bit right in there. There's so much to talk about with Frankenstein. I forget to hold up the book. There's so much to talk about with this. One of the biggest things that I think is really interesting about Frankenstein is this god complex, right? Frankenstein is so intent on creating life out of nothing. And why is he doing it? Well, I guess he's doing it just because he can do it, but that doesn't mean he necessarily should do it, you know? Especially if you're just gonna toss your creation in the trash right after. I have a coworker, and we were talking not too long ago about this book because they read it for the first time, and they were describing similarities to Jurassic Park. They were saying, yeah, you know, like those scientists in Jurassic Park, just because they could clone dinosaurs and bring them back to life doesn't mean that they should have, because what happened? Yeah, they got this cool park, but everyone got eaten. Every movie, people got eaten. It's true. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something. Science-wise, otherwise too. And then there's the whole nurturing aspect of this book, which I find so interesting. It makes you think so much about that in this book. But it's where the monster isn't necessarily this evil creature. At least he doesn't start off that way, you know? He's not trying to kill all these people. He just wants a companion because he knows that he's the only one of his kind. He just wants, you know, someone to talk to. But because no one can look past his disfigurement, the way he looks, people don't give him the time of day. What happens when you are just constantly rejected and put down and blah blah blah? It's so sad to see this creature that has so much potential then transform into this just terrible being. And the monster in and of itself, he is such a interesting creature because when he first flees and goes into this forest and then watches this family for a couple years, he is so intelligent. He teaches himself languages and how to read. And I think if I'm remembering correctly, there's even a scene where the monster sort of appreciates the beauty of the sound of birds. There's something like that is in the book I remember reading, and I thought, you know, this poor guy. I do want to touch on Frankenstein, Dr. Frankenstein as a character real quick. My goodness, what an annoying character. Frankenstein is probably one of the most annoying characters I've ever had to read a perspective from. Such a trash character. I know he's meant to be written that way. He's very melodramatic and all over the place, and my gosh, just shut up. Which is why I think when first reading Frankenstein, I felt it to be a little slow and a little over dramatic, like I said, because of Frankenstein as a character. But I think that a lot of people should overlook that and just read the book regardless, because there's just so much to take away from Frankenstein. There's so many themes, so many more themes that I can't even touch on in this video alone because, you know, it's been a while since I've read this, so there's that. But yeah, Frankenstein is really great. You should read it. I think that's all I'm going to say for today about this book. But, you know, it's a classic. There are many, you know, adaptations that are great that you should also check out, though nothing really has ever done this book justice, in my opinion. All of Hollywood's adaptations are so different from this. Don't go into the book thinking you're going to get Hollywood Frankenstein, because it's just not the same thing at all. No green monster is in this book, okay? Just keep that in mind. So yeah, I think that's all I really have to say today. Have you read Frankenstein? Do you plan to? Let me know your thoughts and opinions, and I would love to chat with you in the comments below. I hope you guys have a great day or night wherever you are, and I will see you in another couple of days with, I don't know what book will be next. Perhaps War of the Worlds. I really want to do War of the Worlds, but we'll see. I have a couple options. So anyway, bye.